Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Vault. I am Jake, your host here tonight on this fine Tuesday evening, if a bit chilly. Welcome in. I hope you had a good week so far, and thanks for joining me tonight on the show. We've got a few things laid out ahead of us. We're going to talk a couple of news items, and then we're going to jump into some of my hacks and tweaks that I've got going on things that are on my table currently and playing with my current groups. So should be an interesting time tonight, and I do welcome you in. So I kind of want to get out of the way first of all that a couple of days ago I crossed 100 subscriber threshold for me, and all I can say is I'm humbled. It happened so quickly, but I appreciate you watching, and I thank you for joining me on my channel, and hope that you continue to enjoy what we're doing here. I just kind of sharing the things that I like and talking about things in gaming in the way that I've done it, and hopefully learn a few new things along the way. So just glad that you all are joining. One thing I have noticed, however, is many of you are watching my live streams after the fact, and I thank you for that. But if you happen to have time whenever we're here on Tuesdays and Fridays, I would love for you to join in when we're live and participate in the chat. So, if you get a chance to stop in and say hi, then please do so. You don't need to stay for the whole time, but at least come say hi. So anyway, that's that. And, again, I'll say one more time, thank you for subscribing to the channel, and thank you for being part of the journey here. It's something I've wanted to do for a while now, and it's nice that other people are enjoying it as well. So, if you like what I've been doing, then please drop me a like and a subscribe. And, but more importantly, come on into the chat, say hi. But anyhow, that, I'm not going to dwell on that too long, but sorry about Friday. We did not do a stream on Friday, but I did release a standalone video review of Drifter, which seemed to have done pretty well. People seem to have enjoyed the review. So, hey, Mark, welcome in. Good to see you. But the Drifter thing seemed to be pretty popular, and kind of makes me want to do more of those standalones. So I'll probably try to drop those in, sprinkle those in with the live streams from time to time. So that's kind of that. So Mark is one of my local players here in the chat, and we're getting ready for a cold weekend coming up. Winter has finally arrived in North Texas, so we'll see how that goes. It's probably going to impact our gaming this weekend, but well, c'est la vie, right? So, okay, let's join in and start talking about some of the things I had pulled up. So let me start off here. Kill the banner. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So this is a news article coming from ttrpgfans.com, and it's basically just announcing that the expansion for Blades in the Dark Deep Cuts is available for general purpose now. Now it released on Kickstarter later in 2025, and I've backed it and I got my rewards. But it is a extension of the Blades in the Dark game, but it also overhauls some of the stuff. And I just thought I'd kind of share this article and talk about that a little bit, because I kind of backed it out of a bit of completionism, but I'm really glad I did, because once I broke into it, they've really done some work to clean up some of the things that I kind of thought was a little clunky. But anyway, June Launched on BackerKit in June 2025. The book is now available to the general public and can be picked up at game stores and the Evil Hat website. And I think it's also available on drive-through, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so it introduces new factions, character options, store hooks, and game mechanics to help flesh out the original Blades in the Dark rules. Plus, offers new lore and background information on the ghost-haunted city of Duskfall. So, so if you're not familiar with Blades in the Dark, it is a unique system. The system's called Forged in the Dark, and it is a bit more narrative. There is plenty of crunch still, but it is a bit more narrative. But really, the main thing is that it is a player focused game. So the GM doesn't really roll dice, the players do. So even when the bad guys are attacking, it's the players that are rolling to defend. There's no attacker roll, so to speak. And there's quite a bit of behind the scenes downtime activity and campaign work for this game. So your players are part of a crew in this setting, and the setting is kind of I'd say 19th century-ish, but it has mixed in fantasy and a little bit of magical elements into it. The background is very unique and it's very flavorful. I enjoy it, and the system has introduced a lot of role-playing mechanics that have seen adoption in a lot of other games of late, specifically like around the time, the clocks mechanic of having a ticker clock to track things that go on in your game. And then like the flashback rule that they have where you can, when you're in the middle of a role-play session in like a scene in the game, you can initiate a flashback at the cost of stress, which you can then go back, kind of a mental flashback to show that you actually did bring the 10-foot pole that you needed, or whatever the gimmick is that you really kind of needed for the adventure but forgot to get. You can go grab it with a flashback. But it's an interesting way of handling it. But what is the deep cuts, right? So one of the biggest things here, I'd say one of the top two, is the new factions. So they talked about a lot of the factions in the original book, but there's only a handful of them that actually got kind of fleshed out for gaming purposes. But they did in this come in and really cover that deeply and well, so that you kind of fully understand all the dynamics going on in the city, and you understand the relationships between the factions now, and kind of who does what and who's with who and against who, and all of that. And of course, it fully integrates it into the faction mechanic system of the game too. So that cleaned up a lot of stuff. The heritage and background packages that it lists there are good in the Catalyst, but I would say they're kind of secondary to the factions, and more importantly, the overhaul to the action system. So they went in and changed how harm and trauma is handled. Harm being kind of how your character is damaged physically, and trauma being the mental aspect of that. And one of the most interesting things about it is now the GM can, when you take harm, you kind of write it down as an effect. It's not a hit point loss. So if you take a level 2 harm, then it can be something like a broken wrist or something like that. Or if it's a level 1 harm, which is the weakest, it would be like being fatigued and so forth. Well, now the GM has the option of invoking your harm. So if you're about to take action in some kind of a check or so forth, and one of your harms or traumas would fit that. So, for instance, if you're trying to run away from a bad guy and you have a fatigue as a level 1 harm, then the GM can invoke that and say, well, your fatigue is making it harder, but when that will penalize you in the check. However, when the GM does that, you get XP for that automatically. That's kind of a cool effect. I like it. Same thing with the advancement system. It slows it down a little bit and changes the advancement to use the clock system. So it's a little bit more It cleans it up a little bit to where some of the same mechanics are used rather than several different systems. And the downtime stuff is a big one also, because previously the downtime system was dependent upon dice rolls and a lot of random chance on how you did. And this makes it, this takes the chance out of it. You can't get sometimes as good a results, but you can get reliable results. And when you have only a limited number of downtime activities that you can do in between missions, then it makes it a little bit more important to be able to reliably bet that those few uses that you have are spent well, right? And then also changing the action system over to a threat-based system. So I won't get too heavily into that because it'll be getting into the weeds a little bit too much. But just suffice to say that it's cleaned things up. It's streamlined it a little bit. There's not really any loss of granularity. There's not any loss of options. But just through moving things around a little bit and changing how the systems interact with each other, it's made it a smoother system. So anyway, if you're into Blades in the Dark, I would, or have bought it in the past, I would absolutely recommend that you go grab this supplement because it's worth it. So next up, so I think I talked about in a previous live stream that InWorld was doing a voting poll for the most anticipated games of the coming year. And so they've published that list. And so I just kind of wanted to go through it and see what stood out and what seemed interesting, right? So starting 10, number 10 is Twilight Sword. We've talked about that a couple of times. That's kind of the video game inspired system out there. So there's been a lot of talk about that around the internet. So it's not a surprise to me that it's on here. It is a surprise that it's not a little higher, honestly. There's been a lot of interest, and I figured it would have scored a little bit higher. You know, number 9, Old School Essentials, the 2026 update. OSE has been around for a long time, and so I think that their rules update that they've got coming is no surprise that it would be here, because it's a pretty popular system in the OSR. So not surprising. Discworld. Now this one does surprise me that it's in the top 10. Not really as a dig against Discworld. It's just I never thought it was that popular. I mean, it's pretty cool. I read some of that stuff whenever I was young, but I guess I just didn't see it really hitting with the younger crowd. But, you know, hey, more power to it, right? And this one, The Black Company, number 7 by Arc Dream Publishing. So I'm really pumped to see what we do here with this. There's only been one other RPG version to my knowledge of The Black Company, and it was released back in the 3E days as a D20 system. I didn't really like it. Didn't really like the port on that system very much, but the book did have a whole lot of really good lore and background material. Yeah, Mark, bring on The Black Company, indeed, right? So let's see, what does it say here? So Arc Dream published Delta Green, and so it features morally gray characters, the military focus as it follows a mercenary unit through several decades of history. Yeah, so The Black Company is a series of novels by Glenn Cook, and really great. Loved them. I recently reread them when they started releasing them in omnibus editions. And so, yeah, I can't wait to see what comes of this. I really hope it is not 5e, but we'll see. I don't see anything here about it, about the system that it's using. But anyway, we'll see. Number 6, The Broken Empires. I backed this, and honestly, I am kind of getting tired of waiting on it. They haven't released the PDFs yet, and I've kind of been disappointed that they haven't. They're behind a little bit, not too bad, but this is a skill-based system in a custom setting, and it's a percentile system, but it's got a lot of crunch to it. And in my opinion, from what I saw in the Kickstarter, it's got the crunch in the right places. So I'm excited to see what Broken Empires brings to the table, and how the system runs. And I'm going to certainly try it on the table at some point. But we got to get those PDFs out, guys. We got to get cracking. Ars Magica, not familiar with it. Of course, I've heard of Ars Magica, but I've never played it, and I've never owned any of the games. So it's been around a long time. So it does have a following, I'm sure. So yeah, it's on up there in the top 5. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Yes, not surprised to see this at number 4 for the 5th edition coming out. It's already been talked about that the 5th edition is going to be more of a 4.5, cleaning up of rules and a refinement to the system. Looking forward to that, honestly. It's been out since, it says here, in 2018, and there's been a lot of books and a lot of revisions on things, and it really kind of needs a bit of a cleanup. But I'm looking forward to see what happens with that, and see if some of the things that I've anticipated as the changes get put into the system, specifically around how advantage is handled. And if I was to guess, it's probably going to be brought more in line with some of the Imperium Maledictum stuff that they've released from 40K. So, and if that's the case, then that's a good thing, because what they've done with Imperium Maledictum, it's, to me, pretty top notch. It's tight, and if they do that here, then I think it'll be a win. Number 3, Mistborn. So, not familiar with this game. So it is. Last year, Brotherwise Games broke every record with its Kickstarter for Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere RPG. The game is out in the wild now, but now they're following up with the Mistborn RPG. This was a stretch goal in the original campaign, so it won't be another multi-million Kickstarter, but a separate game to the Cosmere RPG that's out there. So not sure about Mistborn. Not really familiar with it at all, but good on them, I guess, for hitting number 3. Invincible Superhero Role-Playing by Free League. Been a lot of talk about this, right? So it is not surprising to see that on here. It is surprising at number 2, though. I would have not anticipated it to be that high, but especially since the interest in comic book stuff has waned a bit of late. So good on them, though, if they're able to be successful with it. And number 1, Deathbringer from Professor DM over at Dungeon Craft. I'm looking forward to this. It is kind of a hack off of Shadow Dark, if I'm not mistaken, with Professor DM's own take to it. Looking forward to it. I will try to get in on this whenever it comes out, if only just to read the rules. But glad to see that it's at number 1. Happy for Professor DM. He's a good guy. He's got a great channel. So if you're not familiar with him, go check out Dungeon Crafts. That's his channel. You're gonna see a lot better stuff than I do. That's for sure. So anyway, so that's the top 10 from InWorld. Love to hear what everybody else's opinion is. Did you find this list, appropriate for your tastes, or is there things here that you would have rathered see that didn't appear? So, if you have some ideas about it, put it in the comments, or, hit me up. We can certainly talk about it. So yeah, that's the news items I had today. Mark, you said you've never seen many of those. Yeah, some of them are they're popular in certain circles if you kind of pay attention to what goes on in the world of RPGs. I guess it just depends on what circles that you are in, but yeah. Some of those I myself am not familiar with, but most of them I am. But anyway, we'll see how they do. The updates to OSE and Warhammer Fantasy was a big surprise. Yeah, I didn't. Well, I think I talked about Warhammer being updated, right? But as far as old school essentials, I did not know that that was coming down the pipe. So good on them. I'm sure they've been very successful over the years in the OSR field. And, like many others, they're starting to do updates. I know over the last few years, Traveler from Mongoose has been going through the same thing, right? So they've released a core book update, and they've slowly been updating all their core book lines over the last few years. So a lot of these companies are refreshing their systems, which is a good thing. So it's always good to kind of be on the cutting edge, right? Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what I've got on my table these days. So I've got several things going, right? So I've got an in-person group that plays, and then I also do duet gaming with one of the guys that also does my in-person. I do some online duet gaming with him. He's the member of our group who has low vision impairment. So he's legally blind, and so he is not able to always get around like everybody else does for being able to come over and play in person as much as he wants. So I try to get on with him from time to time, and we'll play some stuff, just he and I. And over the weekend, we started trying a game called Band of Blades. So I was just talking about Blades in the Dark, and it uses the Forged in the Dark system, right? So Band of Blades is it also uses the Forged in the Dark with a bunch of heavy tweaks to fit it in with it. And it's funny that we were also talking about the Black Company, because that's the setting that Band of Blades really is going for. And so it strives to recreate that feeling of a shattered legion of mercenaries as they're falling back against hordes of undead, and you're trying to buy time to get to a place called Skydagger Keep, right? And if you're able to do that, then you win the game. And yes, it is a role-playing game, but you can win and you can lose. So, and you play at two levels in that game. You play as legionnaires who conduct the missions and do the actual combat and role-playing, but then you also each player takes the role of one of the command staff for the mercenary unit. So the commander, the marshal, the quartermaster, and other positions like that. They don't go on adventures, but during the campaign phase of the game, you do make decisions as these command staff to affect how the Legion moves on the map and their supply situation. And it also affects what missions that the Legionnaires undertake. And so what I did is, I'll share my screen again. Canticle of Restlessness. Hey, gamers. Hey, I think this is the first time I've seen you on stream. Welcome. I've seen you in the comments, but welcome into the stream. Appreciate you being here. So, okay, so again, we're in Legend Keeper. Yeah, I know you guys are going to get tired of seeing this, but I love this software. But so what I did is I went in and created a series of boards for me to be able to play this in the duet fashion, essentially over the phone. So what I do is I just fire up Google Meet, and me and the other player will jump on there, and he's able to see on his end. He uses an iPad, right? So, yeah, kit bashing, Forbidden Lands, and Band of Blades sounds cool. Yeah, it is. So I'm not doing those two together. I am doing some kit bashing on a couple of other systems we'll talk about here in a little bit. But anyway, so he plays, Jim, he plays on his iPad, right? And so he's able to look at the Legend Keeper site at the same time I am. And I created a playboard here for us to use. And so he has one character that he runs, and I run the other 3 as NPCs. And so you can click here on these, and it takes you to the character. So I built the character sheet for him in here so that he can go in and see it, and we can make changes. I've got dials that here, meters that I've set up for the key things to track in combat, the skill section, and then I've created separate pages for the gear load and the XP trackers. So, and there's I've also put the just as reference, like the uses for the different skills as a quick reference, and it just makes it easy to reference. That way he doesn't have to dig through the PDF, right? So let me jump back over to the playboard. So yeah, so I've got the characters up here, and then one of the cool features is also there's a dice roll mechanic that you can set up in Legend Keeper. So you just type out the die rolls. It uses the Roll20 syntax, I believe it's called, for die roll mechanics. So click that, it rolls on the screen and gives you the readout of the dice rolls. So, you know, real handy to have along whenever you're playing. And then, you know, I just threw up pictures here so that the player, so Jim can come in here and see references to what I'm talking about as we play. Just stuff I grabbed off the internet and threw in here. So this playboard is kind of a whiteboard where I can just kind of drag and drop things in place. I can put clocks in here for tracking things like the enemy's alert level and so forth. Canticle says those dials look good for all the morale variables and tracking. Yeah, it's very helpful for that. It gives a quick at-a-glance look at, you know, character state. So that's a new feature that Legend Keeper just came out with a couple of months ago. So it's pretty cool. I like it. So yeah, that's the playboard. I've also thrown in the map of the game here that comes in. So I put the Legion's camp here on the Western Front, and I've set up a few other things in place, like for, as I was telling you, the command staff, like the commander and marshal, they have play elements too. So I threw in their trackers as well, and so you can see here that I put numbers in. This is normally something you would print out and track with a pencil, but I dropped in text numbers here that I can change for the pressure and the intel. And then you can see my time clocks here that I've set up for summer, fall, and winter, and I can track how those clocks fill over time. And the other thing I did, and this is something that I'm trying new for this game, is it's running the NPCs with an NPC emulator, right? And what that is it's from a solo system called Mythic GM Emulator. And they just released not too long ago an app for that, which allows you to roll a lot of their tables and stuff, and it helps me run the NPCs. So I'll show you what I mean. And this is one of the NPC. It's an NPC PC, I guess. It's a PC, but I'm running it as a GM. So one thing I put in here is I went into Mythic GM Emulator and I rolled on the Oracle tables for the descriptors for this NPC. So I rolled up he's crazy, combative, and a naturalist. And his motivation is control. So those are just tools that I'm using in running these characters to be able to kind of understand how they would operate in the game and in missions. And it helps drive how I roll on the emulator. So let me show that to you real quick as well. So this is, wait till to load here. There we go. This is the Mythic GM emulator, and I'll clear out the adventure log. But the main part that I'm using is down here at the bottom, and this is called the fate chart roller. So what it does is you can decide whether somebody is doing something, what the likelihood of them doing it is, and then roll against it, right? So let's say that you have the Viscount that I was showing you just a minute ago, and what's the chances that he loses control and rushes forward into the enemy lines, right? So since he's crazy and combative, maybe we would say that that is very likely. So behind the scenes, there is a chart that handles this. And so you roll that and it tells you, it rolls behind the scenes and says, no, he's not going to do it. Roll it again. No. Well, I'm rolling really low here. Oh, I'm clicking very unlikely. I'm sorry. So there's an exceptional no and yes, and that's kind of what I was wanting to show. So on the chart, it's rolling percentile behind the scenes, and on the very low end of the percentile is the exceptional no answer, and on the very highest end is the exceptional yes. So let's say the same example we were talking about. He rushes into combat into the enemy line, reckless and with abandon, right? But with exceptionally yes, maybe he does it in such a way that he kind of hampers some of the other people, like he shoots off wildly and triggers the alarm or something like that. But anyway, it's just a narrative tool that I'm using to try to run these NPCs as not just extensions of me, but that fit along with the descriptors that I rolled up for them originally. Canticle says, would be interested in checking out the Mythic software. Anything to speed up looking at a table sounds like a good idea. Yeah, 100% Canticle. It is, when I found this the other day, I was amazed by it. There's a lot of functionality here. Maybe I'll go into it in a separate video sometime, but you've got a ton of Oracle tables here on the left that you can roll from. So for instance, just in character identity, I mean, you can see actions, appearance, background, all that kind of stuff. You can roll these oracles, and it's not just for solo. You can use this stuff at the table as a GM like crazy. But yeah, sometime I'll probably go through this and explain how to use it, but it's pretty amazing. Canticle says, yeah, sort of tells the story of the Viscount being worn down and eventually giving up. Yeah, exactly. So, you can use this tool along with the descriptors to kind of drive the role play for an NPC character like that. You can do it at a table with, if you're sitting there with a laptop and you're sitting at the table with your in-person group, you can do the same thing. They get into an encounter with an NPC in a social situation, fire this up, and you can use this to power it. So. Yes, Mark is asking, can you build your own custom tables too? Yes, you can, and that is a very cool feature. Not only can you build your tables, but you can also set the probabilities in those tables to favor certain results and so forth. So yes, you can even modify the ones that are in here that are existing. So you can modify what they have, or you can create your own from scratch. So. Yeah, so jumping back over here, so that's what I did. So we tried this out on over the weekend, and oh man, Mark says, imagine using this with the ICE rules tables. Yeah, the millions of charts Rollmaster, right? Yeah, this might actually make Rollmaster playable. Already actually functionally better than the books themselves then. So I would say that it's not better, but it certainly makes the rules more feasible. That's the way I would put it. It makes the GM emulator more feasible because you don't have to flip around and bookmark that thing and go all around the place. It takes a great idea in the the Mythic GM emulator, and it makes it so that you can actually use it in a reasonable amount of time on the tabletop, right? If you're playing solo, it's not as big a deal, but when you're playing in front of a group of people, this makes it into an amazing tool that you can use at the table. So we played this over the weekend, and we got through the first intro mission, and I think Jim enjoyed it quite a bit. He said it flowed pretty well, and he said that his thoughts were that, using the Legend Keeper along with Google Meet and me playing the other members of the party, it made it flavorful for him. It made it immersive, and we're kind of excited to see where it takes us from here. And if people are interested in it, let me know. I'll certainly keep you updated as how it goes along. Right. So now let's talk about Fateforge. Fateforge and Advanced 5e. More feasible to use, but in regard to what is being used, we get to make the tables work to represent what we want our settings to be, instead of confined to Mythic universe outcomes being simulated. Yeah, that's right. So you are with just the book, you can create your own tables, but it's kind of time intensive, right? If you're playing it with just the book. But yeah, the software really kind of turns the corner for usability. I agree. And I picked it up off of itch.io, and it was $10. As far as I'm concerned, that's $10 well spent, right? So there's also behind this, and again, I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds on it because I think I'll just do a separate video on it. But there is a ton of customizability in that software, in the settings of how you can control how things are rolled and so forth. I mean, I just barely touched the surface. There's a lot. Okay, so talking about this Fateforge, for me, I have been considering for my in-person group I've been considering a campaign for this group for a while now of what to do to launch my next biggest epic campaign. I mean, over the years, I've played many years long in real-time campaigns, and I'm kind of getting the itch to do it, to set things up to get another one going. And so been kind of talking to the guys and noodling on this myself for a while now on what to actually do. And a couple of my guys are really big into the D20 stuff in D&D. They like the old school type gaming system, and me and another player prefer not D&D, and there's no right or wrong there. Everybody likes what they like. It's subjective, right? But part of the balancing act of a GM is trying to get everybody on the same page and to enjoy what you're playing. And for me to have fun as a GM, I need my players invested in the game. I need them to be excited about it and be looking forward to playing and talking about it when we're not playing. And those kind of things make me have fun because it lets me know that they're having a good time. And so that's been part of my thought process on what to do. And originally I was going to go down this path of Fateforge because it kind of, I found a way to do this, and this is what I want to share tonight, is how to do this to kind of satisfy both parties. Now since then, I've kind of shifted gears again over to Forbidden Lands, but that's only because I don't want to step on the other GM that's also running a game for our group in the days that I don't run it. So we kind of switch off back and forth. And he's already running a Adventure Conqueror King system game, which is a D20 game, and it's set in Mystara. So I got to thinking about it. I don't really want to step on his toes, and this would be stepping on his toes. So, but I do want to share with you what my hack was that I had planned for this, and that's what this is. So Fateforge is a 5e setting, and it's a completely self-contained core book. And there's a number of other books for it too, with a bestiary and encyclopedias and so forth, right? But it is the setting for Fateforge to me is really good. I would say that this is on compare to something like Galarian in Pathfinder or Forgotten Realms in D&D. It's that kind of high fantasy type things. It bills itself as sword and sorcery, but I really kind of think it's more high fantasy, in my opinion. But the problem that we have is with 5e's simplification. We kind of prefer a little bit more crunchier type system, and 5e is especially on the combat side is very kind of bland to us. But however, what I like about Fateforge is the magic system. So the magic spells here, and I'll just jump over there to the magic whenever I find it. Let's just do this. I'll go to the table of contents. How's that? I forgot. Okay. I forgot the magic is in a separate grimoire book. My bad. Sorry guys. So, but I'll jump over to the wizard. But the flavor in the game with the archetypes really fits the system very well. And the magic spells that are included in the game are very geared towards the setting, and they evoke the setting very well. And I didn't want to lose that, right? So I wanted to keep the archetypes that are in the classes, and I wanted to keep the magic system that was in place as well, as far as the spells, the different methods of spell casting that are available in this game, because they are very flavorful for it. So what I did is I mixed it with another system put out by I'm not sure exactly who, but they're affiliated with InWorld in one way or another. But it's called Level Up Advanced 5th Edition, and there's a lot of things in here that they introduce that add a lot of crunch to the system that in my mind is really needed. And we'll go into those here in a little bit. But what I did is, if we look at a class here, like, let's see here. So, they have all the civilizations and cultures as well. And then when you jump over to the classes like the barbarian, for instance, and I'll jump over to, so they have these are their archetype, their primal paths, right? So when you get to, I think it's second level, then you pick one of these paths, and it's the path of the Berserker or the Wizard Slayer, and each one of these classes has a set of these archetype paths that you can select from, much like D&D 5th edition, but they're very geared toward the setting. And so what I did is I went through the class level by level, and I looked at what was on offer and compared that to what A5 Advanced 5th Edition had for their character classes that matched. And what I did is I slotted in the things that would work for that. And here's what works. So if you jump over to Advanced 5th Edition and you look at their classes, for instance, specifically, let's look at the fighter. So the very first thing they get at first level is something called combat maneuvers. And this is what I wanted to add into the game. So Advanced 5e introduces a system for evoking combat that is, in my mind, unparalleled for a D20 system. So you get at first level, you get a number of maneuvers here that you are able to learn for that. And you also get a number of, what do they call it? It's something like stress. I can't remember the exact term, but it's something like stress or grit or something that fuels those maneuvers, right? You spend those grit points to activate the maneuvers that you know. And so if you jump over to the combat maneuver section, what you do is whenever you get to, if you have this class ability, then you pick a combat tradition at the very beginning. And each tradition knows a certain number of basic maneuvers that every tradition has access to, right? And that's good. So disarm, grab on, grapple, typical things like that, knock down, shove. And then you get to the specific disciplines, right? So this one here, the adamant mountain maneuvers. So this is it's focused on hardiness, might, and power. So you get cleaving, swinging, heavy stance, lean into, and they work similar to feats that you would see in 3rd edition or 3.5. But what the difference is that you only know a handful of these, and you have to fuel it with your grit points. So you get those grit points refresh with every encounter. So let's say that you get 5 points. Well, cleaving swing costs 2. So during the combat, you're going to spend 2 of those those points to be able to activate that maneuver, and so on and so forth. Now, there are some things that give you the ability to recover those points in combat, and there's some abilities that give you a chance to spend over the amount to really enhance the power. So there's some of these powers that allow you to spend more than the required to get an enhanced effect. But what I'm driving at is that these combat maneuvers really make combat for the fighting classes far more interesting, and the game is much more than just I swing my sword, right? And I knock out a pool of hit points. So this is a way to make the fighting classes more interesting. So jumping back over to fighter, what I did is I took some of these options here at these levels and I slotted them in to the Fateforge classes and made trade-offs where necessary. So if I look at Fateforge at the fighter, so what I did is I took out their fighting style and their second wind and their action surge, and I introduced the combat maneuvers to the fighter. And then I gave them the same amount of maneuvers known at each level as they get in the A5E system. And the same thing with their number of grit points that they get, right? And then also the A5E system introduces other customization options that you can do, like soldiering knacks. That's another good example. And so if we jump to the end here of fighter, let's see, there they are. So those are the soldiering knacks. So these are just extra fighter type flavored abilities that you get and that you get throughout your career as a fighter, and you can choose these as you go up. So jumping back to the chart, you get a soldiering knack here, and then let's see. I don't remember exactly which ones pick it up, but you can see here that you get maneuver specializations and extra things related to combat maneuvers as you go up in level. And I just slotted those into the Fateforge at the same levels as they appear here. So what I did, my goal here was to make the Fateforge game far more interesting for the fighting classes. So I went into A5E and I selected the Berserker, which is the Barbarian, the Fighter, the Herald, which is the Paladin, and the Rogue and the Ranger. All of those that in A5E have access to combat maneuvers, I made those available in Fateforge for that. So I went in and I made a custom 20 level class chart, and with the majority of the features available from the Fateforge book, and then just replaced the appropriate things in here to be able to work with combat maneuvers out of A5E. So I just kind of wanted to share this as an example of how you can kit bash two different 5e type games together in order to create something that's a little bit more flavorful and something that fits your table, right? Because that's ultimately what it's about. Is you want the game that you play to fit the players, what they like to play at your table. So, you as the GM, you love a setting like Fateforge. You want to see it on the table. You want to create adventures around it. Great. You don't like the rule system. Well, there's a way to handle that, right? So anytime that you have two systems like that, like 5e clones that you can kit bash together, or if you jump over into the OSR, when you have systems that you can throw at each other like that, the OSR games are very similar to each other, very easy to kit bash those things together as well. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out as an example of something that I was working on. It was, while I was still considering it, it was looking like it was going to work out pretty well. Now, the proof's in the pudding, right? So you get at the table and see how it works, and you have to. That's the other key I wanted to point out, is that when you get at the table with these kit bashes that you create, you got to be ready to adjust on the fly too. Sometimes things just don't work. Sometimes you find things that what sounded good in your head doesn't work at the table, right? So you just have to be ready to be able to objectively look at the things that you created and make adjustments as you play the game and see how it works out, right? Mark says, boo, nerf the fighters, power to the magic users. Typical wizard, go away. Okay. All right. So the last thing I was going to talk about was Forbidden Lands. So I made the decision to shift over to Forbidden Lands, and I will share that with you here a little bit, just to give you an idea of some of the things I've been doing for it. So oh, I haven't renamed it yet. That's why. Okay, so this is something that I created that's pretty cool. And I just created a landing page for my players, because as I'm getting ready to launch this campaign, what I'm doing is I'm throwing in all the things that the players are going to need to be able to make decisions about what the characters are that they might want to play, right? And so I'm trying to give them all the tools that they can to research this ahead of time, learn a little bit about the game world, and see how they're going to be able to interface with the game that I'm going to be launching. So I just created a player idea board and a character creation section for that purpose. And then I also just put a little news section over here so that whenever I make changes to Legend Keeper by adding things, then I can just put this here like a change log, and the players can see what I've done new and what they can check out. So I created an idea board, and so my players have access to modify this. So they can come in here, they can add sticky notes like Mark did. They can come in here and if they have questions, or if they just have an idea of what they want to see in the game, they can come in here and throw it in. They can even put pictures in here if they wanted to. If they see something cool, whatever. This is a place for them to put their ideas as we're getting ready to launch the campaign. Mechanical says, how accessible are these pages compared to Notion? So I'm not familiar with Notion, so it's hard for me to tell you. What I can tell you is that in Legend Keeper, what I do is there's a permissions thing here. So, well, can I access that here? So if I go into the projects, and I'm not going to do it here because I don't want to accidentally reveal anything private. But what I can do is you put in your players' emails, and it sends them an invite link. It does not cost the players anything. So all the paying is done by the GM. So the players are able to access all this as a free service. So it sends them the link. They're able to join the project here. And then I use the permissions page to set all of my pages permissions. So you can have your players just be able to view stuff. You can have them be able to edit. You can give them admin permissions per page if you wanted to. So it's pretty flexible in how you let your players interface with the system. So for character creation, and I just wanted to show you, I jumped in and added the information for all the kin. So I just created a little wiki page for each one of them, and there's tabs here that you can navigate, and it shows what their abilities are and things that are related to, tells you about the culture, and it tells you about their talent that they get that's specific to them in Forbidden Lands. Did the same thing for the professions. So for each of the professions, you have their key abilities and things for character creation, as long as a list of the paths that they're able to choose from whenever they create their character. And I went in and added all the general talents that they are able to select from at character creation as well. And that's a very long list. I did not include the mechanical effects because it can get a bit long in some cases. So I just added the narrative effects for now, and then as we create characters, we can kind of dive into that in more detail. But that's and then there's a timelines thing, which I haven't created yet, but I need to enter in the timelines for things. But that's just something I wanted to show you of how I am preparing to introduce my players to the game. So this gives us a way to start thinking about things even before we do our first session. They can understand the world. They can understand what's available to them. They can look at the map if they want to. All of those kind of things to give them a feel for the game, right? And then I have my own GM section here that they're not able to see, where I'm kind of plotting out what I want to do and some of the ideas that I have, right? So that's what I have at my table right now. What are you guys doing? Anything interesting? If you have stuff you want to talk about or ask, feel free to do so in the comments if you're watching this afterward. But that's kind of all that I had for this evening. So I guess unless anybody has anything else they wanted to jump on, then we'll wrap it up. So we got a show coming up Friday on the Friday night stream. Haven't quite decided what I want to do yet. I had an idea, but the person that was going to be involved is not going to be available, so I'm going to have to switch gears on that. But I'm sure we'll find something good to discuss. And I got a couple of reviews that I'm working on too that I'm going to release as a separate standalone video. So anyway, I appreciate everybody coming in tonight. Got a lot of interaction tonight and questions. Thank you for that, and I hope you had a good time. If you enjoyed the show, if you enjoyed what we did together, then I'd hope you give the video a like and a subscribe if you're not a subscriber. So anyway, thanks everybody. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll catch you Friday. Good night.